Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Orna Grand. She is the Westport Walk event organizer for Tick-Borne Disease Alliance. That's TBDA. We'll learn about the organization and meet Orna when we come back, so stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Orna Grand. She is the Westport Walk event organizer, and we'll get to the events in a little bit, but she's here for Tick-Borne Disease Alliance. TBDA is the letters, that's the acronym. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us about Tick-Borne Disease Alliance. It's a real, tick-borne diseases are real serious, and obviously the word has not gotten out enough about them, and that's one of the reasons you're here today, aside from talking about the event itself. But let's get basic first, all right?
Okay.
Talk to us about the Tick-Borne Disease Alliance.
So the organization, they merged with another organization called Turn the Corner Foundation earlier on this year, and we became Tick-Borne Disease Alliance. The founder of Turn the Corner is Stacy Groden and Rich Groden, and they merged with the founder of Tick-Borne Alliance, David Roth, and we merged together to see whether together we can make a little bit more progress in finding early detection tests, as well as getting people's voices out, contacting their senators to try to make some progress in this disease.
So merging a couple of organizations just to make one bigger organization might create louder voices so that more people will hear, including legislators, correct?
Correct.
Now how bad of a problem is it overall for somebody watching? They hear about, deer ticks. They hear about it a little bit here and there. A lot of times, or once in a while, it'll be talked about on the news. But how big of an issue is it? Well,
it's now very endemic to Fairfield County, but all of Connecticut. But it's also present in all 50 states.
And now, last winter, there was hardly any snow. And I remember some people commenting that because of the lack of snow, that many more ticks didn't die. So that, once spring came around and summer came around, it created an even bigger problem because they weren't killed off like they normally would be in a typical rough New England winter, right? Is that true? Did that happen?
It's true. However, the tick problem is really all year round.
Okay.
A lot of people think that in the winter they die, but they don't. They are present in the winter as well.
Oh, so the bad winters don't really knock them out that badly?
No, what happens is there's a cycle. So it starts with the tick laying eggs, and then they become nymph, and then they become adult. The females lay the eggs again, so it's a whole big cycle from the fall to the spring to the summer. So the seasons that the ticks are prevalent is the spring and the summer.
So this past winter, or this winter that we just experienced, there was a lot more snow, but regardless of the severity of it, I mean, we had a blizzard and it was cold, but regardless, that doesn't really affect the cycle then?
It doesn't affect the cycle. It probably affects the number of eggs that were hatched. But I mean, I'm not a scientist, so I can't
but
really...
I mean, you know what the rest of us know, about and obviously people with pets or in the outside, they're dealing with the issue a lot more, and it's an issue. I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation today if it wasn't not an epidemic, but it certainly warrants.
Actually, it is.
It is an epidemic.
It is an
Yeah.
epidemic.
So talk about that
And
a little bit.
you'll find the ticks not only on deer. I think that it's prevalent on deer because they've got such a large surface area. But the ticks are also found on rodents. They're found on birds. They're found on squirrels. They're found on our pets. So you go out to the backyard and the pet comes in and brings the tick along in the house. So if your pet is on your bed and the tick falls off the pet and goes on your bed, it's going to find a nice warm host, and that's what they're looking for, a nice warm host.
Yeah, and the other thing about deer in general is there's such an overpopulation of them. I mean, that certainly will add to the numbers. If there's more deer, then there'll be more of a chance of having more ticks on them. But yeah, bringing it into the house, and I'm sure, you know, people have heard about little tips that they could do to at least check their pets. And you know, everybody hits the shower, so it may not be as much of an issue for them. One thing they hear about all the time is Lyme disease, but that's not the only issue as far as ticks are concerned, right?
So a tick has many different pathogens. It has Lyme, but it also has ehrlichiosis, Babesia, Bartonella, and a few others that I won't mention. And so when you get bitten by a tick, and not all ticks carry Lyme, you can have more than one pathogen, and that's what makes it so difficult to diagnose and treat.
And you sometimes you can go through with Lyme disease for a period of time and not even realize that you have it, right? I mean, you'll start getting symptoms after a while.
You will start getting symptoms, and it depends on each individual's immune system.
Yeah. Older people might be more apt to.
Well, it depends on their immune system.
Yeah.
I just recently read that it's very prevalent from 5 years old to 14 years old kids, as well as people who spend a lot of time outdoors. Gardeners, the kids spend a lot of time outdoors, and so it's become very prevalent there. What we want to get out to people is the awareness and the prevention. So as far as prevention, the ticks are found not in the short grass area, but in the tall grass area and in the area outside your house that is close to the wooded area. That's where they like to be. They also like to be in the rock walls. So
when you say tall grass area, if you keep your lawn mowed for the most part, you stand less of a chance of having to deal with them?
Because if the sun hits it, then you should be okay.
Right.
So when you get your property sprayed, they usually go to the outskirts of the area where the brushes, where the rock walls are. They typically do not do short grass where the sun hits it a lot.
So to continue on prevention, you know, there are things that you can do to your lawn, your yard, your area, but how about your person and how about your pets and things like that?
So if you're going to go outside, the tips are not to go in tall grassy areas, not to walk in the deer paths. When you go outside wearing long pants, light colors. And why light colors? Because you can spot the tick. It'll be more visible on light colors, so they suggest light-colored long pants, socks over your pants, long
Who's going to do that, though, you know?
Long sleeves.
This is summertime. If you're out and about in it, you know, you're doing the exact opposite of what people want to do, you know?
Long sleeves and hats, so that the
for
ticks
this
don't
head, I could do that, you know?
go in the hair.
Right.
The ticks, where do they like to go on the body? The warm, really warm places, behind the ears, under the armpits, behind the knee, in the groin.
Somewhere where there's a fold, where you
where
know,
there's a fold, where there's heat.
Right. Yeah. So what would be if you did spot one on you, what do you do? What's the first thing you do? People might be more, you know, their impulse might be to run to the shower or something like that, or just, I don't know, grab a pair of tweezers or something like that?
Well, I want to go back to part of the prevention.
Okay.
That's the clothing.
Right.
Another part of the prevention is spraying. Spraying your clothes with permethrin.
Is that what it's called?
Permethrin.
Okay.
Spray only for the clothes, and there are already treated clothes. It's on the website TBDA tbdalliance.org.
We'll put a graphic up on the screen too, so people, because I really want to get to the website, but we'll do that in a little bit. Let's continue.
So
Prevention.
Prevention. Spraying. Also, there is.
When you say spraying, by the way, can you just go into a store, I mean, any store, and use one of the products that they're selling for that purpose?
Well, I'm not sure where you can purchase the permethrin, but I think some hardware stores have.
Okay, yeah, because you know you're going to be working outside.
Right, and then there's FDA-approved spray that you can spray on your skin. A spray that contains DEET is
and they don't like that,
safe.
I guess.
No, they do not like it. There are organic and natural sprays. I'm not sure how effective they are.
Okay.
So that's one thing, spraying. The other thing is, as soon as you come in from outside, you want to check yourself. And if you do spot one on and you want to check yourself, you want to put your clothes in the dryer.
Oh.
Because the dryer heat kills the tick right away.
So whether they're on there or not, they won't be for long.
Right. Then you go into the shower. A tick that is not embedded will fall off.
Okay.
A tick that is embedded will not fall off.
Okay.
So if you find a tick, and they're very tiny,
Yeah.
depending on their life cycle.
You might not even feel, would you even feel them?
You definitely do not feel it.
Okay.
No. So if you see, and they're very, very small, they're about the size of a beauty mark. They could be as small as a poppy seed.
Wow.
Or a sesame seed.
Wow, yeah.
So that's why it's difficult to find them.
So can you imagine a deer or any animal out in the wild? I mean, they could be covered with those things.
They can be covered, and when they have feasted on you, when they're engorged, then you can find them.
Because they're larger.
Because they're a little larger, because they're engorged with your blood. So if you find a tick, you take a sharp tweezers, and you try to, in one motion, by the head, pull it out straight. Put it in a Ziploc bag and bring it to the health department.
Because you want to get it tested.
You want to know. It's easier to get the tick tested than it is to get us tested.
Is that right? Is it less expensive too? Or?
I don't know about the cost, but the reason why it's a little difficult is because your body needs about 4 to 6 weeks to build up antibodies in order to detect the bacteria.
Gotcha. So it could be roaming around in there without your body knowing it.
Yeah. If somebody goes and gets tested, as soon as they get bitten, it's going to be a negative.
Okay. Now, what if you were bitten in the past already? Would your body recognize it if it happened again, and you'd be sort of pre-immune to it? I don't know how that works.
No, you're never immune to it.
No matter what.
No, it's a bacteria.
Okay.
It's not like the chicken pox once you get it.
Right. So your body, like you said, it's a bacteria.
It's a bacteria.
So that's for a person. I want to talk about pets too, because everybody loves their pets. You know, they're like members of the family to some people. So, but they will, just like a wild animal, can be out more apt to be getting into that brush and the areas where the ticks will jump on.
And I'm not familiar too much with what's out there besides Frontline, but I know that there are natural and organic sprays and preventive measures for the dogs. Actually, at our event, we're having Earth Animal come to our event, and they're going to be talking about their products and how they try to promote prevention of
what kind of products does Earth Animal have? Is it just?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but they're
mostly organic, natural.
Gotcha. But they are going to be at your event, so we'll make sure we talk about that. Now, would you happen to know if you did spot one on your pet? Would the procedure to remove it be exactly the same?
I believe so.
Okay, so you just take the tweezers and try to get the head
straight up.
It's tougher on a pet because they're fully hair, so you really kind of have to fine tooth comb your way through it. But I would imagine
there are special combs to use for your pets. I know my girlfriend does. As soon as the dog comes in, she combs the pet and removes the ticks.
And you should probably do that all year round. Like you said, it's an all year round thing. It's not just in the summer.
Not just in the summer.
But, you know, when in doubt with the pets, take them to the vet because they certainly would know what to do. So that's the prevention. But aside from, you know, putting your clothes in the dryer, you know, and taking a shower and kind of checking yourself out and the removal, what else can you do? Some people might be apt to, if it does happen to them, they want to go to the doctor anyway. You can't really blame them for that if they wanted to go to the doctor. Better to be safe than sorry, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
Okay. And but like you said, if it just happened, the test is going to come back negative anyway. So
Exactly.
it's almost like a catch-22 for a little while.
Depending on the physician might give them antibiotics right away, and some don't, because if you give them antibiotics, the antibodies might not then build up.
Right, that's a good point, yeah. Do they have an idea, you had mentioned that it goes in cycles as far as the tick population goes. Do they, ahead of time, are there predictions, like for example, what's it going to be like this year? Do they have an idea?
They do predict, but I don't know how they, I'm sure there are entomologists who do this, and they know, and I don't know how they predict it, but I think they predict it according to the weather.
Right, so depending on what the weather is,
if it's dry, if it's wet, if we had a lot of snow, if we didn't have a lot of snow,
right.
So they can get an estimate that way.
So as people, we're sitting here discussing this today, do you think people take it serious enough? I think people have a tendency when they see a tick, whether it be on themselves or on their pet, they get a little panicky and they kind of jump into action. But do you think people take it serious enough? I mean, you hear a lot of people getting Lyme disease, and certainly that has its complications, like you said, depending on their immune system. But are people aware of it, and do they know what to do for the most part?
I think people are aware of it, and I think if you know somebody who has it, that person is even more aware of it. I think we need to go into the schools and talk a lot about prevention. The kids go out in the playground. Most of the playgrounds are not sprayed. And so I think, yes.
Do you know many people?
A lot of people are aware, but there are a lot of misconceptions about Lyme disease.
Let's talk about that.
Like you said, once you get it, will you get it again? Yes, you will.
Can you live a normal life with it? I mean, do you have to be treated all the time?
That varies on what pathogens you have been affected with.
Boy, it's not an exact science.
It's not an exact science, and they're still learning about it. I was bitten by a tick in 2002, and I'm still battling the side effects of it. Wow. It took about, I would say, 6 weeks for them to, what came out first was Bartonella, and then about 3 months later only, I tested positive for Lyme.
Wow.
So it took my body a really long time to build those antibodies up.
Did you get involved with this because of your own personal? So I mean, that happens a lot with people. They have a tendency to, once they have a vested interest, that really is a motivating factor to be at the very least a spokesperson or be involved in some way. As it turns out, you're the walk event organizer. But was that your way of kind of giving back? Or?
That was my way of saying we need to find a way to raise awareness, because people with Lyme disease or other tick-borne diseases go through, I would say, maybe 15 to 20 physicians until they find
Is that right, really?
someone who is Lyme literate.
Wow, no kidding. I'd like to think that a certain doctor, if they didn't know, if they weren't as knowledgeable, would be able to steer you in the right direction.
Well, the problem is that with Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases, that the symptoms mimic many other diseases.
Good point.
So it mimics multiple sclerosis, lupus, chronic fatigue syndrome. So let's talk a little bit about what symptoms.
Yeah. Do you always see a mark on you if you have Lyme disease?
Okay, so about, I would say, 35 to 55% of the people do not get a rash.
No kidding.
And another misconception is that it's always round, it's always a bullseye.
Yes, that's a misconception.
It's not always a bullseye. And you don't always get a rash. And I would say 35% of the people, approximately, don't even know that they were bitten by a tick. Because they didn't find a tick until they start having symptoms. And the symptoms can be cyclical. It could be chronic fatigue. It could be migraines. It could be neurological symptoms, weakness, numbness in your face, neuropathy.
So many things.
So many different things that mimic other diseases. Weakness, short-term memory loss, word retrieval problems.
No kidding. We've been talking a lot about people. I think people watching have learned a lot just from our conversation today, but you also want people to check out the website because they can go and they can learn a lot more there if they have questions, not only to learn about the diseases and the Tick-Borne Disease Alliance itself, but about events coming up, which we'll get into too. But talk about the website a little bit.
I think it's a phenomenal website. They have many different links on the top, and one is prevention, and one is advocacy, which is very, very important. We really want people to click on that link, and we make it very easy for people to fill out the forms and get your story out to your senators, to your congressmen. How difficult is it to find a doctor? How difficult is it to get the insurance companies to pay?
Yeah, simple as that.
Pay.
Because sometimes you get the feeling like they don't take it seriously, so they don't want to,
Well, because it mimics other diseases, Lyme disease is the last thing they want you to have.
It's inconvenient for them, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that Tick-Borne Disease Alliance has is it has phenomenally different programs. One of the programs that they have is specific to TBDA is the physician training program, which I think is just great. So a physician goes to this program, he's sponsored, and he or she shadows a Lyme literate doctor for several weeks. I'm not sure how long the program is, and then they go back to their town and they treat.
Such a good idea, because we were just talking a minute ago about how sometimes a patient will have to go through a myriad of physicians to get somebody who you use the term Lyme literate to be able to properly diagnose it. And if these doctors and medical people are getting the proper training in the first place, then they're able to help a patient, and a patient doesn't have to go through this, almost like running through a maze trying to find a person that's appropriate to be able to help them.
So the website is a great resource. You could also find, excuse me, doctors on there. There's a link there to find doctors. Our son, who goes to University of Michigan, had a tick on him, and he's in Ann Arbor. And I said, well, how are we gonna find a doctor? And so I called a friend who works at TBDA, and they found me a doctor.
That's the power of networking right there, and
yeah.
the power of this organization. Are you guys plugged into social media too? Because you got to get the word out on Facebook too. And
yes, they are on Twitter and on Facebook.
I'm sure the links are at the website, so you can go to the website and be able to click on those links and everything too.
Yes, you can.
And the another thing that the website has is all the events that are coming up, fundraising events, including your Westport walk event, and you're the organizer for that. What's it like being an organizer for a fundraiser like that?
A lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. You really have to be. A lot of things will fall through the cracks, and you probably have a lot of good people.
What's difficult about that is you're working with people who are not well.
Right.
And so, although their heart is totally in it, if they're not feeling well, they really can't accomplish what you want them to accomplish.
There's got to be something that you can find that they can help out with. If they can't, if something might be too physical for them, there's a need for them elsewhere, right? Right.
Yes.
Are you always looking for volunteers, by the way?
Always looking for volunteers.
So they can, if they go through the website, can they get a hold of you there? So
yes.
that they can. And is there any specific tasks that you need people to do?
For this upcoming event, I'm all set with volunteers, but typically we need people to help spread the news. So we have mailings. We need to get sponsors. We need to get media out there.
Right.
So those are the things.
And apparently you are also not only the event organizer, but you're apparently the de facto public relations person to come onto the shows and talk about it. I mean, you did two good things. You're promoting your event for fundraising purposes, but also in general getting the word out about the dangers of ticks and the Tick-Borne Disease Alliance itself, because maybe people have heard of maybe they didn't realize that a couple of organizations merged and this is the result of it. But the more the merrier as far as getting the word out to people, I would imagine. So you're doing that. Now again, if they happen to be watching this show after this particular walk that you were talking about has passed by, going to the website, this certainly isn't going to be the only fundraising event that you'll have, so they'll be able to go there and learn.
So on the website, there's also a link for events, and there's also a link for how to get involved. So like I said, it's a very resourceful website.
Right.
And so I think a couple of weeks ago, there was an event in Texas. So this is a nationally recognized organization. So Texas had an event. I think in a couple of months, someone in Massachusetts is going to have the event.
Depending on where you are in the country, is the tick problem different geographically?
Yes. In Long Island and I think the Midwest, you have the Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever. You have Lone Star tick. So there are different names for different ticks depending on the geography.
Yeah, we have to worry about ticks. We have to worry about mosquitoes,
Yes.
and you know, the insects. They're invading in not so good ways. And,
Yeah.
So check out the website. What's the website again, by the way?
www.tbdalliance.org.
All right.
And if you want to go onto a specific walk event, it's tbdalliance.org/walks.
All right, so you can go right, you can bypass and go right to the
walks.
To the walk. So go check that out. Orna Grand is the Westport Walk event organizer, but you know so much about the organization, about the diseases, the tick-borne diseases. So I was really happy to have you on the show and share some of your knowledge. So I very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is our show for today. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube page. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. We will see you next time. Take care.